We begin with the Obama campaign's attempt to paint Mitt Romney as being for the rich. Howard Fineman is the editorial director of the Huffington Post Media Group. Michael Steele was chairman of the Republican Party. Both are MSNBC political analysts. Gentlemen, I want to show you something that Vice President Biden, he spoke to one of the largest Latino political organizations earlier today. What he had to say, a strong attack on Mitt Romney. Take a look.
When his father was a candidate for president in 1968, his father released 12 years of tax returns because he said, and I quote, "1 year could be a fluke, perhaps done for show," end of quote. That was his father. His son has released only 1 year of his tax returns, making alive the old adage, like father, like son. He wants you to show your papers, but he won't show us his.
And, of course, yesterday the president also hit Romney. He told a local New Hampshire station that Romney should be more open about his finances.
Is it your belief that it's unpatriotic for someone to have a Swiss bank account?
Well, I think what's important if you are running for president is that the American people know who you are, what you've done, and that you're an open book. And, that's been true of every presidential candidate, dating back to Mr. Romney's father.
And finally, today at a town hall in Colorado, Mitt Romney was asked about the attacks coming from the Democrats.
I'm not going to apologize for success at home, and I'm not going to apologize for America abroad. I went out and began a business, and the business turned out to be far more successful than I ever would imagine. We were able to create jobs in our own little business, and some of the places that we invested were able to create jobs as well.
So, Michael Steele, how does this all play? It occurs to me that Americans do not resent wealth at the ballot box. If they did, JFK would not have been elected, FDR would not have been elected, Michael Bloomberg would not have been elected. What's the net-net?
Well, the net is the narrative, and the narrative is one that you see the Obama team trying to carve very carefully about Mitt Romney, and that is that he's out of touch, he's disconnected from real people, everyday folks. The pushback by the Romney people has got to be one where Romney himself gets in there and clearly defines his wealth in the context of the American dream, aspirations, you can do better tomorrow than you're doing today. And that's the central battle that you're seeing being drawn, the battle line being drawn right now between these two campaigns, both around definitions of Romney. Interestingly enough, the Romney team are trying to define Obama as well, but with less success so far because the president's record, while mixed on the economy and other things, he's got more places to pivot to, whereas Romney's central argument has been, I've created the jobs, I've done the business of business, give me the chance to show you what I can do. And that's a tougher sell when you're trying to battle the idea that you're just for the rich guy.
Howard, are there some perils here because it could get depicted as class warfare?
Well, I think there are. I think if the president and his allies end up looking like they resent wealthy people and they're going after them just for the fact that they're rich, I think that could hurt the president with some independent voters in swing states. But I can assure you from talking to some people advising the president's campaign and Democrats on the Hill, they're perfectly willing to take that risk right now because they think they've got Mitt Romney, if not on the run, at least at a slow trot. They don't think that Mitt Romney is going to be able to get from today until November 6th without showing more of his tax returns. They think that there's got to be some things in those tax returns that candidate Romney doesn't want revealed. And if they can keep the press interested in the story, and that's a big part of this, then they think the pressure will build.
Well, Democratic
and I think that's a big challenge for them.
Let me show you both what Democratic strategist Joe Trippi had to say. He said it's the cumulative effect of these attacks against Romney. He told Politico, quote, on a 0 to 10 scale, you get a bunch of 2s and 3s, but when people look at them and you combine the Swiss bank account and a guy who wants to extend tax breaks on the wealthy and you start to get a 7, that's the danger for the Romney people. It's not this issue by itself, it's the combination. Michael Steele, I think that's the direction in which you were headed, that the cumulative effect of this.
Absolutely, Michael. It's death by 1,000 cuts. I could take you out with one blow, but then I create sympathy in the electorate about how I've come after you. We saw that in the Republican primary, where the Romney team was so heavy-handed against Newt Gingrich that there was a backlash to such heavy-handedness. But this effort, death by 1,000 cuts, you got a prick here, a cut there, a slice there. It's the slow bleed, and that creates the overall impression where people, instead of feeling sorry for you, then ask, well, if you're not responding, there must be something true about it. And that's why you're seeing the pushback by a lot of conservatives especially, but establishment types as well, for the Romney team to push back against this narrative about Bain, his tax returns and so forth, to avoid the stem the flow of blood, if you will, from all those cuts that are being accumulated.
Well, let me ask you this question. If you were still running the RNC, would you be calling somebody and saying, hey, bring forth the tax returns? Is that one of the ways that you think the bleeding gets stemmed?
I think it's one of the ways where you say, look, if there's nothing there, there's no there, don't create a there. In other words, put out as much information as you can. Even if you don't release 12 years worth of tax returns, at least 3, 4, 5, you begin that drip back the other way, and it helps to offset some of the noise and the bleeding, if you will, from the cuts that you're getting.
Howard Fineman, on the issue of the tax returns, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz continued the Democratic attack today on Mitt Romney, calling on him to release more years of the returns. Here's what she had to say.
That's the problem. We don't know. I mean, because Mitt Romney has only released 1 year of tax returns and an estimate of another year. Mitt Romney needs to come clean and release multiple years of his tax returns so we can see why he invested in a Bermuda corporation and transferred it to his wife's name the day before he became governor of Massachusetts. So we can see why he's invested in Swiss bank accounts and accounts in the Cayman Islands. Most folks that I know, they make their investments in a bank in America. They keep that. Most American businessmen invest here, and if you're running for president, that certainly should be your commitment.
And yesterday, former Mississippi Governor Haley Barbour was asked about Romney's tax returns. Here's what he had to say.
Yes or no, tax returns. Should he release the tax returns?
I would, but should it be an issue in the campaign? I don't think it amounts to diddly.
And finally, there was a very different take from Romney surrogate Congressman Jason Chaffetz today. He was asked on CNN whether Governor Romney should release more years of his returns, and he said this.
I think he has released the tax returns.
More of them. We need more of them.
Just yes or no, should he release them or not?
No, I don't. Okay. I think he's
why
been
not,
very
though?
successful.
Why shouldn't the American people see those?
He's been very successful. He's released everything that he's required to release, including paying more than 16% of his income to charitable giving. So I think it's a diversionary tactic. Most people, they don't care about this. Governor Romney's been very successful. Get over it. It's the reality.
All right, Howard Fineman, do most people care about this issue?
Well, I don't think they care about this specific issue obsessively. But as you've said, and as Michael said, if you put the secrecy of most of his financial transactions next to concerns about outsourcing and offshoring that the Democrats have been poking around at, next to their efforts to try to paint Mitt Romney into a corner on defending tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, and if you sort of put the aura of secrecy around the whole thing, then I do think you raise questions about exactly what Mitt Romney's up to, exactly what his agenda is, and what his agenda would be for the presidency if he got it. And that can put and has put Mitt Romney on the defensive. The president would much rather raise questions about what Mitt Romney's real intentions are should he be president, than to discuss the current economic condition. By the way, aside from the 1,000 cuts, we have not spent any time in this segment, for example, talking about the rather bleak state of the American economy. Right. That's what the Obama campaign wants, and in the last few days they've succeeded.
A quick final comment from Michael. People watching might say, well, if this is such an effective narrative, why are we deadlocked at 47-47?
Well, and that's a very interesting question. The reality of it is people are right now at a point where they're looking at both these guys and they're trying to assess whether or not they can continue with what they know with Obama, or do they take the chance with the businessman who has a proven track record. And that's the real crux of the narrative. I think Howard, though, makes the final and most important point. It boils down to this economy and how people equate, the solutions on the economy really will be the determinative in terms of the outcome.
Thank you both. Howard Fineman, Michael Steele, as always.